Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Today we've got a huge story that could have AMD finally catching up to Nvidia. The first details on a custom RX 5700 XT, and we get to see some epic prices in the server world. But first, with all the database leaks and recent hardware vulnerabilities, keeping your personal information safe seems impossible. Luckily, it's easier than ever with a new tool from today's sponsor, Surfshark. It's called HackLock, and it sends real-time alerts if your personal information has been leaked. What's even better is that you can get HackLock and a VPN with Surfshark, the only VPN that supports unlimited devices, and you can get both today for 83% off and 1 free month when you use the code GamerMeld at surfshark.com/gamermeld. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today we have a pretty huge leak on AMD's upcoming Navi GPUs, or should I say rumor, but hear me out on that. It was originally reported by Red Gaming Tech, and they got it from a source who's apparently been pretty reliable in the past. So while this obviously isn't guaranteed, it definitely seems their source is someone who knows of AMD's inner workings and someone who we can take seriously. Well, AMD plans to release Navi 21 and Navi 23 in the middle of next year. Obviously, that's in stark contrast to recent news for Navi 12 and Navi 14, but how much we know about those two is fairly small. Both of them could in fact be more mid to low-end GPUs, but maybe not. According to their source, the Navi 21 and 23 seem to be second generation GPUs, which given the name, that makes sense. Plus, rumors peg a new RDNA coming next year, and the head of AMD's graphics division made it clear that AMD plans to release GPUs every year. Now, the news about these doesn't stop there. According to the source, Navi 23 is known internally as the quote, Nvidia killer. And this is important because as the source notes, at least internally, AMD hasn't been this enthusiastic about either Polaris or Vega in the past, so they clearly have something big on their hands. One idea comes down to ray tracing support, which it almost certainly will have considering next-gen consoles support it and they are RDNA based. Then there's the fact that the RX 5700 XT only has 2560 shaders when we know a 4096 shader GPU should be possible. Oh, and the source confirmed all the rumors prior to the RX 5700's launch that suggested AMD was having issues with Navi. In fact, the source claims that Navi was supposed to launch at the beginning of the year, and honestly I've heard a ton of similar things about Navi's issues, so I don't doubt it. Unfortunately, that seems to have set back their higher tier cards, but hopefully we'll get something soon, and maybe something even far better next year. Of course, Nvidia could be releasing their 7nm 3000 series, so AMD could have a tough battle ahead. Next up for today, video cards leaked out the first review kit on a custom RX 5700 XT. The ROG Strix RX 5700 XT to be exact, and with it we finally get to see specs for a custom card. First up, it's a 2.7 slot 11+3 VRM phase design card, so it's gonna be pretty big. With that said, it'll also be a good bit quieter. Unfortunately, whoever put this deck together didn't know that decibels aren't linear, they're logarithmic, so 32% less decibels doesn't mean 32% less noise. It should actually be even less. Either way, let's get to the most important part, clocks. The ROG Strix is a base clock that's 235 MHz higher than reference, a game clock that's 210 MHz higher, and the boost clock, which is basically the highest clock it'll reach by default, I know it's confusing, is 130 MHz higher. But more importantly, that puts it over 2 GHz, which is a pretty impressive feat. As far as actual performance numbers, Asus claims it's 4.7% more powerful, which isn't all that impressive, but they use 3D Mark 11 for the benchmark. I have no clue why. I'd much rather do my own test to see, and I'd love to see how high the clocks can get. Regardless, the card isn't cheap, as it's been listed on Overclockers UK for £500. Basically, you'd probably be better off getting the RTX 2070 Super, or a cheaper version like the Gigabyte 5700 XT Gaming OC that was listed on Amazon. Unfortunately, it's listed as out of stock and they don't have clocks, but it's priced a whole lot better at $420. Lastly for today, we have yet another story on AMD. For those who don't know, the company released their second generation Epyc CPUs based on their 7nm Zen 2, which I may go over in another video, but what's interesting is that Newegg actually listed pricing on their site. Now, these could be placeholders because they're shown as sold out, but we can see that their parts go all the way up to a 64-core 128-thread CPU for $7,220. Now, that may sound like a lot, but when we compare it to even Intel's 28-core Xeon Platinum 8180, it's over $11,000. To make things worse, the 28-core has a TDP of 205 watts, while AMD has a 64-core CPU. 64 cores with a TDP of 200 watts. Now, Intel pointed out some claims AMD made and says it's different, but the closest price part can't actually be the 64-core part, even if what Intel says is true, yet it costs more and takes more power. Plus, remember that new CPU Intel announced, the 56-core one? Yeah, if it's anything like the current one, which it should be, given it's still 14 nanometers, it'll have a whopping 400 watt TDP. So yeah, you can see why AMD is really gaining traction in the server world. And I know some of you think I'm just an AMD fanboy, but they're just doing some really incredible things for CPUs right now. So while that does it for today, what did you think of the news? Excited for next gen RDNA, or are you ready for custom 5700 XTs? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please subscribe. And as always, have a great day.